Progress.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 8th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson is excused. Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Rubinsky is currently absent. Commissioner Emma Fulwilder.
Present.
And Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Monday, September 8th, 2025 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Fulwilder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the Monday, August 11th, 2025 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fulwilder, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to regular business, which is not a public hearing. All right, item number one. Yeah, give me to the next one, right? Consideration with possible action on a request to create a preliminary plat with 38 lots and one outlot that includes public dedications at 0 Duchert Street, submitted by Stephen Beda of Verbiger Associates, Inc., on behalf of Broadway Realty LLC property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this property might look a little bit familiar. A few months ago, we did do a rezone of this property and a comprehensive plan amendment. So the reason why it's coming before you today is because now they're to the stage where they're actually platting the subdivision. And when a subdivision involves the creation of new roads or parks or any type of land dedication, they now have to come through Plan Commission and then eventually City Council. So this particular plat, if you want to go to the next slide, is fine. So the property is zoned R2, low, what is it? Oh, wait, sorry, that's the future land use. The future land use is low density residential, and then, if you want to go back, and then everywhere around it except for the south area is the medium high density residential with the Red Cross area as commercial. The zoning of the property is R2, medium density residential, and then the properties around it are R3, very density residential, with the Red Cross property being an office residential zoning district. So this is what the preliminary plat looks like. You can see the creation of the streets, and that's basically what this, why you're being seeing this preliminary plat. Again, 38 lots, one outlot, and we do recommend approval with one condition, that the Pines subdivision preliminary plat review comments from September 4th, 2025 shall be addressed on the Pines subdivision pre-final.
And what you're really looking for is recommending approval of the roadway dedication.
The roadway dedication. And let the record reflect that Commissioner Rubinsky is now present.
When?
Right, we all. Okay, so the streets.
Sorry, for the following condition referencing review comments from September 4th, 2025, what exactly is that referencing?
So when a plat comes in for review, we submit it out to staff and other agencies to review it to see if they have any comments on it. So these are their comments. We want to make sure that the comments that we received on the preliminary plat are addressed on the pre-final plat, which is the next step in the development process.
Questions for staff?
Nothing to my end. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Fullwilder.
With the conditions noted, or condition noted.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then that will go forward to City Council for, what is it, the 17th? 16th? 16th? All right. Moving on then to item number 2, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items, and we invite your comments and concerns and ask that you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and your comments must be addressed to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 2. Public hearing on a request to amend a conditional use permit at 700 East Walnut Street to increase capacity and operating times for women's shelter submitted by St. John the Evangelist Homeless Shelter, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Chair. This property is at 700 East Walnut Street, which is right down the road from us. So looking at the corner of Quincy and Walnut here. This is in conjunction with the Wellspring building. The Wellspring sign's right at the corner, so that might be a little bit more familiar. The future land use here is the medium intensity retail office or housing, which is very comparable to everything around it, just outside of our downtown area. And then the zoning is office residential, which is also matching most of the surrounding properties with the exclusion of the NC on the corner here. But generally speaking, this is a pretty mixed bag neighborhood, some offices, some housing, some commercial, which is the intended use right outside of our downtown district. So looking at the building here, they have an existing CUP which was established in 2021 for our shelter facility. So while this is in conjunction with Wellspring, this is really just a CUP for the shelter facilities that's at this location. In the original CUP document, there were a number of conditions, 6 in total. The first one being a maximum residential capacity of 58 or as allowable under the International Building Code. The temporary shelter shall be permitted to operate from November 1st through April 31st. They are looking to amend that condition of their conditional use permit. They are looking to increase their capacity from the 58 up to 70, and then also remove the provision of November 1st through April 30th that would allow them to do year-round facility if they choose so. So with that, I want to note that none of the other conditions would change. We keep most of these conditions the same for shelters, including if the current operators were to dissolve or to remove themselves from operation, the facility dissolves and they have to seek a new CUP, that we can review or revoke based on inadequate facilities, not following their operating plan, all those other things. So none of that changes. The operations will generally stay the same concerning the power that the city has over that shelter with the conditional use permit. So they did supply a narrative that kind of described the reason for the ask that was in your packet. They have presented some data that shows that they have seen a steady increase in the amount of adults needing shelter facilities. That's shown through the November 1st through April 30th because that's their current operating time. And they had noted that there was one particular night that they had seen 57 women at that shelter and the capacity is 58, so near to the point where needing to turn somebody away. Also noted in the narrative, if they do exceed that 58 number, this isn't an installation of additional bunk beds or additional facility. Everything will be contained within the existing facility, and they would go into their emergency operations, which are mats on floor. So this isn't talking necessarily about an expansion of the building or anything inside of the building. It's really just that emergency situation being executed. Concerning the time frame, we base that on their operating plans. So in knowing that they wanted to increase the capacity, they took a look at the entire CUP
and wanted to have that provision removed as well in case they did want to pursue a year-round operation. It doesn't sound like they have anything figured out, penciled in, or on the horizon, but they would like to have the flexibility in their operating plan to be able to execute some even emergency situations or something that's a little bit more full-time. The applicants are here if you have more questions about that part of it, but I think they did a good job of explaining their narrative, that they just want a little bit more flexibility as they're moving forward and seeing the needs in our community change pretty rapidly. So concerning our end of things, we have our 7 conditions for CUPs. This amendment does not violate any of those. We feel like this is an important next step for a shelter facility, increasing the capacity and showing the data that it is a needed increase in capacity, as well as removing that timeline. We just feel would better serve the unhoused members of our community. They did host 2 neighborhood meetings. Those were both done after this was drafted. So one was last Thursday, one last Friday. There were only 2 members of the public who attended those meetings, but they were relatively supportive, just wanted to know more information about what was happening. So between that and our staff recommendation, we did not hear from anybody else in the notified area of 200 feet. I think that is all that I have for you right now.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's not, sorry. I did hand this out. This was a letter that came from an architect. We want to make sure that they are still following building capacity, so this was run through our commercial inspectors to make sure that everything's still going to be in line there, and it doesn't look like there will be any issues. So we will keep in that first condition, or as allowable under the International Building Code. I think that should be reflected in case there are any changes to that we need to be more flexible on our end. But the letter that they provided shows that that was feasible. And I do have a written comment that was filled in online that I can read during this public hearing. This is from Frank Torres at 490 Capitol Drive. He does not have any comments, but is in favor of the item. Now I'm done.
All right, thanks, Deb. All right, now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Just come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Dave Boyce. I live at 123 South Quincy. It's one house away from the center to the south. And I've seen everything that's gone on over there for since it started up. And I'm really pleased with St. John and Wellspring, the way they took over that site and what they did with it. And I can see the problems that they had. Sometimes they had police and different things, but that's to be expected by the nature of what's going on. I'm a firm supporter of what's going on there, although it inconveniences me to some degree. It's essential that the homeless have a site close to the government facilities that they have to show up at. And it's the very best location in Green Bay for this particular endeavor. One of the things that concerns me is the feeling of a campus. I want to see if it could be more firmly established what the boundaries are of the campus, because there used to be a fence on the south that got torn down, and that was a nightmare for St. John's because of the growth and everything that was there. But now that things are changing a little bit, to show to the community that you have an actual campus that's well regulated and well taken care of, I'd like to see if there could be established another chain link fence at the back end of the property for the snowplow boundaries and safety of the people that own vehicles, and they come and go all the time. I don't want vehicles parked there that aren't supposed to be parked there. It's just the clients only, pretty much. I want to have more security of the dumpsters and stuff like that, and I'd like to see a small fence like they have at the gardens by the library to the, kind of like around, just small fence around the overhang on, that faces Quincy Street. I'd like to see if, because of the increase in everything, you might be able to put up a no loitering sign that's available through the city, and maybe a neighborhood watch sign. I'd like to see a neighborhood watch sign posted there. There's not that many neighbors, but it would add to the feeling of security for the clients. And I have complete,
Sorry. Try to turn it off. Thank you, that was the 3 minutes, sir.
okay.
If you had another quick point, you could throw it in there.
Well, I'm firmly for what's going on there, and it's a dreadful situation when all of a sudden the clients have to not be there year-round, you know. It's just such a trauma. I've seen them just in a state of shock on the last day.
Thank you so much, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Hi, I'm Abby Brzezinski. My home address is 1448 10th Avenue in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But for this purposes, probably the address of 621 East Walnut Street is more appropriate. So I'm the CEO of the Jack Kaniewski Center. I'm here to show our support for them being able to utilize the space to keep the humans in our community safe. And I'm here just to show our support and also to recognize that we appreciate Jesse's leadership with the program. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else?
This would be his.
I'm with St. John's. Would it be appropriate to speak now?
You can
or-
certainly speak now. If we have questions for you during the actionable item, we'll probably ask for you to
Sure.
come then too, but if
I'll
you
speak.
have something you
Yeah.
want to state, you can certainly.
Thank you. Jesse Burnett, Executive Director of St. John's Ministries, 612 Stewart Street, Green Bay. Thank you for discussing this item and voting on it. It's something of community importance. As you see more and more people experiencing homelessness in our community, St. John's has a 20-year history of responding to the need in our community. We are considered a low-barrier last resort shelter. Started a single location at the Catholic school with mats on the floor and grew to an organization with 4 locations, all in the downtown Green Bay community. I've been executive director for 2 years, so entering my 3rd shelter season, and the numbers continue to increase, not just for St. John's, but for our community. And we feel that homelessness is a community issue, and it requires a community solution, and St. John's is stepping forward to advance our response to the community's concerns. We consider ourselves great partners with City of Green Bay government, from the mayor's office, council members, to the planning department through this process, the city's behavioral health officers, paramedics, neighborhood folks, neighborhood associations, and your homeless outreach case coordinators, Pete and Jeremy, have regular access to our location. So we have seen numbers continue to increase, and we want to remain in compliance with city government. We had one night, as my narrative indicated, one night where we had 57 women we sheltered. We're allowed 58. So this is really to be preventative. We're not going to go out and recruit extra women to come into the shelter, but if they were to find their way to us, we would want to shelter them while remaining in compliance with city government. In addition to that, 57 nights, we had 16 nights with 50-plus women. So our 6-month average was actually only 41 women, but that can be a little misleading because on some nights we could reach over 50, and we did that, 16 nights. We'd like flexibility to look at next off-season, so from May 1st and through October 31st. We're not set in stone right now, but while we're going forward with this conditional use permit amendment, we'd like the flexibility to maybe look at sheltering women in some form or fashion next off-season. Because as Mr. Boyce indicated, it's much more visible, and those are human souls suffering out on the streets. And I think as a community, we need to do better. And St. John's is ready to step into that space and be a great partner in our city.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 3. Consideration with possible action on a request to amend a conditional use permit at 700 East Walnut Street to increase capacity and operating time for a women's shelter submitted by St. John the Evangelist Homeless Shelter, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are recommending approval of this amendment request, subject to compliance with all existing conditions of the conditional use permit and all other regulations of the Green Bay Municipal Code. So with that, the first condition would just be amended to reflect the changes that they've requested. It wouldn't be removed in its entirety. You would just update the language on that first condition.
So just edit. All right.
Concerning Mr. Boyce's comments, with the fence, that is absolutely something that you could add in as a condition if you feel so inclined. It is not a requirement that we have for shelters to have fenced properties, but if you feel that would be helpful or necessary in this situation, you can certainly add that in. The same with the no loitering or neighborhood watch signs. I'm not familiar with the process of how neighborhood watch signs are typically added or addressed. I'm not familiar with that process, so I'm not sure that we should condition on something like that.
The program is active right now.
Yeah. But the no loitering signs are run through the city, so that's a little bit easier for us to have a direct path over.
If I can add one thing, so this site is probably grandfathered site. They would require some type of transition buffer yard to the south because it's residential. This is a
And that is where
commercial
the fence
parking lot.
was. Yeah.
That's where the fence was, even though a chain link wouldn't have met those requirements. So it's grandfathered the way it is and can remain this way until they, reconstruct part of the parking lot. But to just make that statement that eventually a fence would have to go back up there just by regular code. And you could, as Stephanie said, you could also require.
Would that be a 3-foot fence or what's there?
Well, you could go up to 6 feet. The goal of the fencing in the code is to block headlights, block noise, emissions.
It's changing what you can.
Right, so typically there would be a larger setback, and in that setback you'd have to have landscaping and that kind of stuff. But in this case, there's just very little setback. When and if they ever reconstruct that parking lot, it would have to come into compliance. But I just wanted to point that out, that eventually there would be a fence there. If you want to make one, or have them put one up, you could do that as well.
Yeah. Question for staff, were there any conditions in there around day services? Is it only for overnight, or is it for
Well,
the
this is
shelter?
only
It's
for the
already-
shelter.
Yeah.
So whatever their shelter operating hours are, that has no impact on the CUP.
So it wasn't a condition then?
No, they have an operating plan submitted that I'm sure details that, but more of the day work goes on through the Wellspring side of the facility.
So the reason that they're coming here now to update the CUP, if I'm understanding correctly, it's going from the 58 to 70 and being able to operate year-round. Those are the two things that are different. That's
Yes.
it?
Yep.
That's the only thing?
Yep, everything else would stay the same.
Okay.
So if there are any additional changes that go against the CUP or are limited by the CUP, they'd have to come back and amend those. But all the rest of it is really our standard language. Sorry, something came on. So I don't see any need for this to be further amended because all the other conditions are pretty standard for our shelter facilities.
And Steph had mentioned, there is a condition in there about it can be reviewed if there's any type of calls or issues. I think in your staff report, I don't know if you mentioned it, we have not had any issues with
No.
this
Oh, it's been
location
good.
at all.
It's been a good location, good partners,
Yep.
minimal disturbance.
That's the south side of the building.
Yeah, personally, I've gone here many times to do service, and we've always had an excellent time going through the system and providing services for the people that are there. So no concerns or any of this. I just asked about day services. I know, as was mentioned, the homeless population, unfortunately, in Green Bay is increasing. And living in the downtown area, I see a lot more people migrating to the library, unfortunately, and the library is becoming like a day service center. So that's why I was asking what the, I don't know if the operating hours are.
Yeah,
but-
This is the Micah Center too, isn't it? Or no, they moved that down on Monroe now.
That got moved.
To
Yeah.
the big church.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sure that Mr. Burnett may be able to answer that more thoroughly than I can. But it would not impact this conditional use permit.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as going from the 58 to 70, the only thing that they need as far as what the inspectors found was just one fixture short in each category for that.
Which they addressed.
Right. And going, I mean, 58 to 70, they're not expecting to house 70 people all the
Yeah.
time, it's just in case.
Yes. So that's why with leaving that condition as it reads and just adjusting the language the way you want, it keeps that building code provision in there as well to make sure that that is addressed with the change.
And I think it's reasonable to run it year-round. Houselessness doesn't end in the summer, so.
And this doesn't require them to have year-round operations, it just allows them.
Allows them, right, it gives them the ability.
I appreciate the forward-looking nature of both of those things, among all the other things that they're doing, I appreciate, but I'm not inclined to condition offense in this particular. I think it's something of note for them to know when they redo the parking lot or do any other work, they may have to address it, but I don't see a reason to do it at this moment via this method. So I'll move to approve as recommended with the updates to the conditions that were mentioned.
Yeah, I was second.
Any questions for them? If you want.
No, this is an older picture, so I see the fence here, but if they're redoing the parking lot, that's, yes, just to address the concern.
All right, so we've got a motion by Vice Chair Miller, a second by Commissioner Ravinsky. Do we have any further discussion?
It was not me.
Oh, sorry, I looked right at you when I said it too, I'm sorry. Commissioner Daniels.
Look right.
Really, you look alike, I'm sorry. All right.
It's the steps.
Do we?
Blame it on me.
All right, I'm still lightheaded. All right, do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward then to City Council for September 16th. All right. Moving on to item number 4, which is a public hearing. And I don't have to read it, really? All right, okay. All right, I really can't, but okay, all right. Public hearing on a request for a conditional use permit at 643 to 645 South Jefferson Street to permit a 2-family dwelling duplex in an R1 low-density residential district submitted by Steve Beta of Verbicker Green Bay Holdings LLC, property owner.
Sure. So the property that you're looking at here is the northeast corner of South Jefferson and Cass. It's across from the water utility. You see the Fox River on the far western portion and East Mason Street to the north. The property itself is located in a low-density residential future land use, and the zoning for the property is R1 low-density residential. Within that district, upper, lower duplexes are a conditional use. There happens to be other multi or duplexes within that block of the 300 feet. There are. On this block itself, there are 11 parcels, 4 of which are duplexes. Across the street, there's 4 more buildings, but those are all single family. So in the general vicinity, there's 4 out of 15 that happen to be 2-family around this area. So next photo you see here, this is the latest street view of the property, corner lot, and it is addressed as 643, 645 Cass Street. In the past, this was a 2-family upper lower. It was converted into a single family in 2012. With that, the applicant is seeking to restore what that was in the past, but with that now, next slide please, they've presented a site plan that for the building and what's being added are improvements that would meet the code. And as far as the improvements we welcome to the neighborhood, right now, there is no garage, and it is a gravel driveway. To come forth, they need to put forth a garage, 2 stalls because of 2 units, and then sufficient tandem parking with that as well. this would, what they're showing here, would fit that need. They've brought forth a general sketch as far as what they want to do for the garage. Pretty standard 2-stall garage for this site. So on the surface, as far as this site itself and what it means for, will this work for things like setbacks, impervious surface, and just general improvements, works pretty well. It's to be noted that this property itself, however, has gone through the court system because there was some activities to where there were conversions into a 3-unit on this site. That can't be. R1, well, first you need the permits in general, but within R1, 3 units are not permitted. So changing this to a 2-unit would be permitted. There's, of course, some basic site plans inside of the building showing that this site could, in theory, work, but I do want to note that whatever would come with this, the building plans would need to be approved by our inspection staff. And some of the things that would come to mind with this would be ingress, egress, electrical, plumbing, fire protection, all of which we need, for any project, we'd have to have those items sorted out. But making a particular note on this property because of the activities that occurred back in 2024 that were noticed in 2024 and went through the courts.
All right. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who'd like to speak on this item.
Just letting you know I'm here. Steve Peter, Woodbury Record.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak?
Would this be, I just want to point out that if it is the time for him to speak, would he need to speak now? Just because I
He's
know
the applicant,
sometimes-
so if we have questions of him in the actual item, we can ask him at that point too.
I just want to make sure he knows it.
Right.
You know, this.
We see him a lot.
Yeah. Well, 'cause it's happened in the past where they have to go up and say-
I appreciate you. I didn't mean anything, nothing untoward at all. All right, okay. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect. Let the record reflect that no one came forward and the public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 5. Consideration with possible action on a request for a conditional use permit at 643, 645 South Jefferson Street to permit a 2-family dwelling upper-lower duplex in an R1 low-density residential district submitted by Steve Beta of Verbicker Green Bay Holdings LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Chair. Staff did receive 2 questions from the public commenting on this. They did not leave a yes or no. They were just more curious about the status of the house itself because people are living there right now. So staff reviewed this as far as what does this mean? And going back to, this site can support the idea of having a 2-family home. It had in the past, and the improvements have been proposed as far as the garage and the driveway make this a better site. The neighborhood itself can support this. There are some factors that will play a role in the recommendation, however. Noted that this is in the Astor Historic District, so any of these improvements that would happen that could be affected by landmarks would still need to have approvals from landmarks. They have not submitted any information over to landmarks as of this time, so they would need to come forward. And that's one of the recommendations that are noted. So staff feels it's appropriate to approve the request of the following conditions: that all needed building permits for the conversion of a single-family dwelling to a 2-family dwelling unit must be obtained and approved, all of them. Now that's normal, but we are just noting this because of what's happened here in the past. Staff feels that all actions regarding the necessary building permits must be completed and maintained as of June 16, 2026, or the CUP to be revoked. That's 9 months from approval of the Common Council if they were to approve this. We feel it's a sufficient amount of time to get in all the technical data that would be necessary to get the adequate approvals from building inspection staff that this site can hold water for things like fire, ingress, egress, electrical plumbing, and so on. And it would give them time to do the improvements like putting up the garage and putting in the pavements as it comes into the next season. And then finally, All needed certificates of appropriateness would be related to the landmark submission must be obtained and approved by them as well.
All right, thank you very much. So now, so this was built as a two-family, and it was converted to a single-family?
This in the records was a two-family home for years and years. So its address is 643 through 645 South Jefferson.
Okay.
It
I would
was,
presume it was probably built as a single way back when.
And somehow, okay.
and then because there weren't necessarily the adequate measures, i.e. a garage and pavement over the course of years, that in 2012, the permitted use is single family, and it went to that. But this has, over the course of time, been used as a two-family home through the majority of its existence.
Okay, right, I guess it has two addresses, so that would make sense. Okay.
Condition or recommendation number 3, it's probably a question more for you, I would think, but has that always been one for anything within the historic districts?
We just don't see a lot of that.
Maybe that's why. It seems like it's been a while since we've seen that.
Yeah, anything exterior on historic properties requires a certificate of appropriateness.
So within the district and a historic property?
And
Or just within?
listed National Register Historic Property.
That was my next question.
Not
That was
just old.
Perfect.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
redundant,
Okay,
this is, we didn't have to put this as a condition.
Okay.
But
It's gonna
that
happen
said,
anyway.
Got it.
We probably just don't see a lot of stuff that pops up in Astor like this. Because
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I live in
exactly.
Fort Howard where it's all historic houses, but it's not a historic district,
Yeah.
so,
Yes,
Yeah.
capital H historic.
right.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff or further discussion?
Move to approve with the listed conditions.
Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Miller, a second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, and that will move forward then to City Council for September 16th. Moving on to item number 6, which is another public hearing. Public hearing on a request to amend Section 30-6 relating to exempt sign standards for neighborhood association signs submitted by the City of Green Bay Community and Economic Development Department.
thank you.
There's a lot of words.
Yeah. So what you're seeing up here would be the typical neighborhood signage that you see throughout the city. And we're looking to put in some text in the code that would give a bit more boundary to what they are, because right now, it's a bit vague. So chapter 30 of the code, 30-6 exempt signs, there are 14 different characteristics of signage that becomes exempt through our signage code. That includes things like house numbers, or flags, or directional signage, construction signs. One of those is a very vague, and I think purposely vague, public signs. Don't really want to put any parameters necessarily on that, but yeah, so it lacks definition and scope. And over the course of months, as far as what these signs have become and what people have asked to maybe attach to signs, or what the sign scope is, staff felt there was a need to bring forth a text amendment that could give a bit more clarity to the signs, so that they could keep on doing the signs they're doing, move forward, and not have this bit of ambiguity that's in the way. So when I go through what you have in your packet here as far as the actual text amendment itself, the bigger issues will be here, what the changes to the sign mean here in the future. This is more boilerplate stuff. So for applicability, we're limiting it to the idea of having 2 signs per neighborhood association. So if you happen to have one, say, on the north side or the south side of the neighborhood association, you could do that. I believe most have 1,
Right.
but you could have 2. It has to be within the bounds of the actual neighborhood boundary. So each sign can be placed on parcels, but it can also encroach into the public right-of-way, or be in the public right-of-way. Current signs right now, some are in the right-of-way, some are on private property. Some of that private property might be city-owned, or parks, or the RDA property. But it gives options as to where we go. We just need to have the sign from DPW, which they already have right now, to go into the public right-of-way. signage can be placed into a front or rear yard, but has to meet the standards for a side yard setbacks for a typical district. Why rear is because there are some signs, or could be, that might be on a double fronted lot. Looking at you, if you're someplace like on East Mason,
Three corners or something.
yeah, this could be a weird rear yard where it's both on two frontages, so that could be an issue. And then finally, it cannot encroach into a vision triangle, pretty basic stuff with that. Sizing, so right now, there are standards in the neighborhood association's signage guide that it's not code, but we're gonna place in the code to give the same identity. So, we're suggesting adding two components to this though. Right now there's one, and that's the neighborhood identity signage. That's your typical imagery and then the name of the neighborhood beneath it. That signage cannot exceed 6 feet in height, 4.5 feet in width, and that overall sign itself no larger than 3 feet in height. So that's what you're seeing when you're going around the city and it's happening to come upon signage in different neighborhoods. One of the requests that's come out there is adding on changeable copy or reader board, or a messaging that could happen on, say, the bottom of the sign. When we looked at that, we thought that has some applicability that neighbors would want to have, but we felt that the sign, the neighborhood identity sign, still made the most sense to be the focal point of the sign. And with this, we're suggesting having it be a max height of 2 feet in height. In the next photo, you're going to see what we're kind of talking about here. So one is an existing new sign over at Western Corridor, and I just happened to put in neighborhood rummage sale, or something that the neighborhood may want to display out to the public in general, showing how you have some changeable copy down below. The one to the right, Schmidt Park is already just done. They put it on their board, and this is where we don't have any rules in this right now, and we want to fix some rules to it, as to not have a sign that might come into play that, frankly, a changeable copy or a message might become the focal point of a sign and overtake what the sign actually is. So those are some examples of what you might want to have, or what could happen with this change to the text. I want to note there was a mistake here in your packets. The last saved copy did not make its way into your packet, so there's two changes I'm noting here. One, in the materials, all new signage shall have a neighborhood identity signage component made of weather-resistant, high-quality materials rather than the aluminum panel or treated wood construction. Aluminum panel and treated wood is what the signs are right now, but we wanted to keep this broad for the sake of, we don't want to take this back to you all here and say 3 years, because there might be a different type of material that's out there. So noted for when this comes to actual consideration. Finally, then, with this material part, the reader board itself, that component, that secondary part, which is not required to be on the sign, but neighborhood associations could choose to have it on the sign. That material has to match the actual signage component, where that material is, or be a vinyl banner. We suspect folks will probably go with the vinyl banner route because it's relatively easy to produce and cheap, and has that flexibility as far as just changing over the course of time. But we wanted to offer those two solutions. And then finally, the last two components, lighting. No internal lighting is allowed for any component of the signage, so you wouldn't have a lighting that would be that you'd see on a typical commercial corridor. No lighting shall be added directly to any component of the signage, and the lighting may occur from an external source. So if you have uplighting, that can occur. I'll note MacArthur Heights and a few others may have some lighting at the moment that has been on for years, just never really enforced. In that case, the lighting that's been there for years can stay in a grandfathered capacity for those signs, but if they were to replace it, they'd be subject to the code here as far as what lighting would be allowed on a site. And additionally, for external features, no additional physical features shall be attached directly to a sign. There are times when people are attaching things like flags or different other signs onto a sign that wasn't meeting the code that we have written up right now. We're trying to avoid that. And then this is being redundant as well, but no commercial message shall be allowed on signage. That's not allowed in general, you can't do that, but we want to make it known. Where could this come into play? I get a vinyl banner sign, it may have a Pepsi logo. You want to say neighborhood rummage sale happening this weekend, and you place that Pepsi logo. Or you want to state something else, neighborhood picnic, presented by ABC Insurance. It can't have that. The commercial signage has to be off. It's redundant, signage says that, our code says it already, that you can't do that, but it's making the point that that's the case. So this gives a bit more of just, it puts in the code what exactly these neighborhood signs mean, giving a bit more bumpers to it, but still trying to allow for flexibility for the neighborhoods to keep on having their own unique identity.
All right, thank you so much. With this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 7, consideration with possible action on a request to amend section 30-6 relating to exempt signs, sign standards for neighborhood association signs submitted by the City of Green Bay Community and Economic Development Department.
So we would recommend approval to 30-6 to allow the amendment to add on this exempt signage as drafted with the following exceptions, that in subsection 4A, that it reads all new signage shall have a neighborhood identity signage component made of weather resistant, high quality materials rather than the aluminum and wood component. And then in 6 sub B, the addition of no commercial message shall be allowed on signage.
Thank you. So, I mean, I feel like our neighborhood associations have done a pretty good job. I mean, I realize that there's no sign standards in place, no code at this time, but they've done a pretty good job of, what's the word I'm looking for? Where they all look the same. Thank you.
It's been an entity that's kind of overseen this. It's the GBN right now. It used to be MNLC, Mayor's Neighborhood Leadership Council, Mayor's Neighborhood Resources Board. So there's always been this overarching entity that funded signs, right? And had the guidelines put in place. So there was always, I think, some guidance to associations on signage. But now that we're getting more associations and more signs, we thought it might be a good idea just to define this a little bit better, and we took this to the neighborhood associations as well, and asked for input, so.
Go ahead, Alder.
I'm the older, but I'm also the president of a neighborhood association. And I did go through this process, so I want to clarify, because you said that. When we got our sign, we had to move our sign to a new location, completely went through the city, they told us where we could put it.
Right.
And I think Green Bay neighborhoods, who ordered the sign, they
Yeah.
put it in for us, so
Yeah.
it was meant to be standardized.
Because Fort Myers was broken in half and we replaced it with
Yes, it was a whole
everything,
process,
right?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I think this kind of just maybe solidifies that everybody's doing, in case they try to do it on their own or whatever, but.
Try to do something
But
flashy.
yeah, we just went through the Green Bay neighborhoods, so I figured that was acceptable, whatever it was, because they're all very similar. I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't like I don't think anybody's gone rogue and gone and done their own thing. But I approve of this, and I did request the grandfathered in for MacArthur Heights because, they've had it up there a long time, and it's kind of like it would be a little harder for them to take it off, and whatever, I just, kind of like, well, you've been doing it, they got permission 10 years ago, but in the future, to kind of work towards getting that standardized, I guess, as far as the lighting.
Right.
Thank you.
So no more decorating.
Is that what I'm reading?
No. It's not, it's the sign itself stays the size of the sign itself. If you want to decorate, you can
I'm not trying
decorate
to
in front of
decorate
it,
it.
behind
I'm
it.
just saying one.
But the sign has to stay
We're-
its own
this
individual
edition.
sign. So that means no attaching lighting,
Starlight or stars.
no attaching flags, no attaching signs that go beyond what the 2 by 4.5 foot changeable reader copy would be.
I love that.
And then it would still be up to the guidebook for any further interpretation. The guidebook itself is about 8 pages. It's a pretty good guidebook. I think it's just, as we keep on having more and more, and people want to have their own unique identity,
Right.
there's been ways where people just kind of push beyond what the guidebook says. So this is putting in clarification in the code that.
Standardization.
To be clear, you can't attach a bracket with a flagpole coming off of it.
Correct. You can have that flagpole, if it's on private property, right next to it. You cannot attach it to it, correct?
You cannot staple a flag to the back of it.
Yes, correct.
Or a stuffed animal.
You're getting very specific.
Right, now I feel like I need to certify our neighborhood sign.
They changed it to be more than.
I've only seen one of those, but it's.
Motion to
That's
approve. As recommended.
Right.
Well, that's- All right, so we have a motion by
Sorry.
Commissioner Rubinski, no, I'm cool with Commissioner Rubinski, second by Commissioner Fulwilder.
I have one question, sorry.
Go ahead, I was gonna ask.
If there was someone wanting to deviate for whatever reason, is there a method to do that? Would it be what would the method be?
If you want to go as far as, say, changing the size of the signage?
If someone wanted to create a sign that deviated from what was there for some reason, I'm thinking, I know downtown already has a sign, it's kind of ugly, I wish it would have a different one.
You're hurting Cheryl's feelings.
It's very boring, it could be better. That's my question.
It's got fake kayakers.
What's your question?
If a neighborhood for some reason, downtown, for example, wanted to have a little bit better sign, maybe one that actually incorporated some actual lighting or something that maybe fit the nature of downtown better, what would the process be to potentially go and do that? I might ask Jeff Merckx to do it.
Understood. You had to ask for a text amendment for something like lighting. If you were challenging the bulk requirements as far as numbers, and you could prove a hardship, you could go to the Board of Appeals.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think that'd be a very challenging hardship.
Would you get like a CUP on it to change the sign? Like, how would you, could you get a?
This is not a, no.
That's
Right,
not,
it's
yeah,
not-
that's what I
Right,
meant.
right,
This is-
right, like, how would
I
you
was trying to
even?
figure the mechanism.
This is standardizing what has been
Yes.
not formally standard for a code, but standard
But has
through
been.
the process here with neighbors associations for over a decade now.
And I'm not trying to stir the pot, it's more of like, I
can't
could see
think of
some
any
situations where maybe you would want to have something a bit more elaborate that fit a neighborhood, probably just downtown or Broadway. If you could do something like that, but that could just be a different type of
Well,
sign.
I think you're talking about not a neighborhood association sign, but maybe like you're entering the downtown, like that's a different
yes.
signage.
And I think that's
right?
the line, that it should be, if you want to do something more elaborate, it can be done, it just needs to be done through a different
Right,
method.
these are going
Not
to
the
the-
neighborhood sign.
These are the actual association signs.
Correct, just as you had all been a part of a discussion here for entry signs into a neighborhood up near Red Smith a month or so ago.
Campus.
Those are separate
Yep.
questions that came into play. This is the neighborhood association sign itself that's had a very, individual neighborhoods have their own unique elements to it, but it still is a standardized look. That's
Because we want to, it's just like any other campus, we want to make it standardized, and this just happens to be across the whole city.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
The beauty of these signs is that top piece is unique. I mean, each neighborhood has their own logos and whatnot. But I think the uniformity is very important in that you know you're entering a recognized Green Bay neighborhood.
Well, when we first started doing, okay, my old timer hat. When we first started doing neighborhood signs, we did the first 7. They ran through the redevelopment authority because they were funded in part with block grant funds, I believe. And Jake Rose, who was the chair at the time, thought it was really important that he wanted equality with associations. So he didn't want, like, for example, Astor, who couldn't, had the resources to
Right.
do a brick, beautiful
Right.
sign.
And Fort Howard over here.
Right, so he wanted them all to be uniform in that manner of size and shape, right, so that's how it's
Great point.
And I think the design scheme they came up with is very attractive. The signs look really nice. I mean, that is a very good point. You could have a real fancy sign.
Yeah, depending on the
another
resources, right.
association.
If somebody donates some money, then
Couldn't do
the
that.
association all of a sudden has a lot of money. Right. All right. Do we have a motion on the second? Yes, we do.
That's good.
I'll shut up now.
Commissioned by Commissioner Rubinski, second by Commissioner Fulwilder. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving forward then to City Council for September 16th. Informational Director's Report.
I've handed out, what?
No, never mind. Forget it. Go ahead.
Do you ever, yes?
Nope, I have nothing to report.
Well, now I want to know.
Do we want to know?
I don't know.
I just wanted
Michael
to thank you guys for your marathon meeting last Thursday.
No.
I would like to say something after, because Mary Beth was always so good at having grace and saying,
Oh.
and I just want to say that not only did it take so much time for everyone to go through and actually just put that packet together, which looked amazing, but then the work on the back end that you all did. I mean, for how many years now?
About 2 years?
Yeah, so I just want to say that I appreciate, I guess I speak for myself, but I'd like to think I speak for the rest of the commission, that we really trust what our planning department does, and I think that makes our job a lot easier, and that document was beautiful, and I really loved it. My name was in there twice.
We're taking one of those.
That's all right, I'm okay with that. That wasn't my favorite part.
Different spellings, if you notice that on the thank you page, I noticed that after.
Wait, what?
There's a Jake and a Jacob Miller in the 2 different columns.
Oh, really?
I sometimes have multiple
It could be a
personalities,
different-
but not on that
We'll have to
document.
catch- we'll have to clean that.
What do you
Nobody
prefer?
noticed that.
I prefer Jake, but my formal name is Jacob.
Right.
Well, what I really.
So, yeah,
want-
I thank you guys so much, because I felt bad. I think we rushed to vote at the very end, because we're like, it's already been 2 hours, so, and then I didn't get to say any nice words to thank you guys.
No, I appreciate, I can tell you guys read it in advance because we ended up with about, I don't know, about 10 comments that are all real good, and we have them all down. But what I really wanted to say was that Steph and one of the consultants, Stephanie and one of the consultants will be presenting at the Regional American Planning Association Conference. Not on the plan itself, hopefully we'll do that at the national conference, but on the process for public input. I just wanted to point that out because you had mentioned it was 18 months to do it, it was extensive, and that the plan is really written by the citizens who come to these meetings, and I think the Regional Planning Association recognizes that as well. So they don't just grab anybody to do their presentations, so.
Well, and the vast majority of the work done by staff for that
Right.
outreach work, in those
Yeah.
meetings,
Right.
parks. and
Running those meetings.
Multiple
Very
nights.
sweaty.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's always a big thing because the consultant budgets don't allow them to do that
Exactly.
anymore. So a lot of communities don't do a lot of outreach. And we've made the point too, I mean, it was
We should
a lot.
put it out there.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, that was my only announcement.
That was good.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good news thing.
Yeah, you saw how the, you have your,
Mhm.
have any questions for me? Let's see, projects coming up, hold on, go ahead, all day.
Director, I just have one. Are there shovels in the ground anytime soon for merge?
We're working on it.
Okay. I was just curious.
I believe they submitted, I want to say, I think they submitted a site plan
Okay.
for approval, so yes, we are in communication with Merge. It's not in Never Never Land.
Okay. Because that was, what, January
It was a while ago.
24?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
I think they're supposed to be in the ground by now, for
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
I'd say the development agreement's probably getting close.
Right.
That building on Cherry, that's tall.
It's substantial.
I just drove on the way here.
You can see it from the west side, it's awesome.
I know, right?
It's looking nicer every day.
I know.
I mean, the exterior.
There's windows in.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, where's the porches? The porches just gone.
Well, I think Badger's sheet metal's all.
That's down.
Coming down, yeah.
I missed the
So-
day that they busted that because I wanted those waves on the building.
I think they may have preserved those.
Did you
I
think?
think that was part of our contract. On the-
That you
on
say
the
that,
little
well,
bar
that,
building?
the square was gone. That, what did it say, like Hannah
it was the
page
square.
19, it was the
square.
stone,
Something
the
happened to
waves
the
are
square, all
gone.
the
Yeah.
waves.
That's already. Where are those waves?
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
I like the- Oh, next meeting Monday, September 29th, and then,
Motion to
all
adjourn.
right.
Second.
We got a motion by Commissioner Urbanski, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Meeting's adjourned.
Yeah, see?